tell me that John, growing up, said, yep, I want to live out in the desert. I want to eat locusts and honey, and I don't want to marry, and I basically want to wear camel's hair. That wasn't his desire. But at some point, God told him, this is your lot in life. And guess what he did? He accepted it.
Yes, sir.
At the same time, Jesus was a man like just as we were, in terms of he had no sin, but he was tempted in every way just as we were tempted. You don't tell me at 30 years of age he was anxious to say, in 3 years it's all done. And so you had to humble yourself to what God's purpose is for my life. And so many people always seek, they want to buy books, they want tapes, they want to go to conferences about finding your purpose. But here's the truth. Your God-given purpose may disappoint you.
Say it again.
That's right. You're right.
And it may not look like what you imagine. See, because your God-given purpose, you just think that it's going to be something grand, that you're going to be like, yes, that's what I want. But then when God gives you your God-given purpose, when he keeps opening doors in certain ways. And see, sometimes, and I'll put myself in that category, we don't find our purpose because every time God opens a door, we don't like it and we close it back because that's not the purpose we wanted.
You saying something?
See, the purpose that he called us to doesn't look like the purpose we want. The purpose he called us to is like, no, that's what Israel did. He wasn't the God they wanted. He wasn't the Savior they wanted. So they said, no, we're closing this back. We're returning to sender. And so a lot of times the purpose that God now brings you to doesn't always look like, and I'll be transparent, I like a lot of ministers and a lot of people, I have ego. I always wanted my God-given purpose to speak in front of thousands of people. Oh, I wanted that. That was my God-given purpose, Lord. I absolutely wanted that. But God has never made that my purpose. And I found myself preaching to one or two, sitting in front. And so what God says is your purpose.
I appreciate being in one. Here I go.
But the thing is that what ends up being your purpose doesn't oftentimes look like what you want. And sometimes we reject our purpose. And while I'm on that, sometimes we reject the person God sends to be with us, to bring us to our purpose, because they don't look like what we want.
Watch out. Go ahead.
So Jesus understood that the first thing he had to show us is to be humble. I will tell you, in 30 plus years of being in the gospel, I can't think of one time I've seen a man or woman of God fall that it wasn't because of humility or lack thereof. But you say, oh no, Elder, that person fell because he got involved in sex with somebody not on his wife. No, I guarantee it was humility. At some point he felt like, I can do this and I'm okay. We say, no, Elder, she fell because she got entrapped because of money. At some point they felt like, I'm worthy to be paid like a CEO. I'm okay. See, without humility, because the Bible says that God gave grace to who? The humble. But he resists who? The proud. If God is resisting you, you are already unsuccessful. There is nothing that you can do when God resists you. And without humility, one of the, when you take a look, even going back into the Old Testament, and you begin to study Israel and what Israel did, whenever they were humble before God, whenever they repented, God did what? He exalted them. Yes. But then when they got filled up with pride and wanted to go after other gods, probably the best example of all the kings of Israel was Saul. Samuel said, when thou was little in thy own sight, God made you king over Israel. But now you've elevated yourself. You've gotten there. And I'm not just picking on the ladies talking about speaking into your ear. Solomon was so great that God said, because you've asked for wisdom, I'm going to give you wealth. But at some point, he decided 1, 10, 100 wives weren't enough.
700.
And you don't believe that those women who were from foreign lands and served foreign gods weren't speaking into his ear? Oh, Solomon, you look so good. Put on that robe, boy. And so eventually, what happens in any situation is that you lose your humility and pride.
Right, sir.
I always go back to Satan. He said, I will be like the Most High. And so God is teaching us that before you do anything, when you're building a house, your base, your foundation needs to be humility.
Watch out.
If you see somebody who lacks humility, don't worry, it's not going to be long before they fall. Not that you rejoice in their falling, but a base that is not built on being humble is one in which, as soon as I see people that want to rush and they want to be exalted, they want to be out front, you know already that pride is going to eventually lead them to a fall. It's not my word. It says pride leadeth to what? Destruction. So we